we're not just selling paper. The print may be made of paper, but the images on there, and more than that, the relationships they represent and the experience that your client has during a session and how your image then sparks the memory of those feelings. If you are able to sell all of that instead of just selling paper, like we help your family to connect and to remember that family comes first every time that you see your artwork on the wall in your beautiful home. And if you sell what your portraits do instead of what they are, then all of a sudden you're going to attract ideal clients who are very happy to pay the amount that you deserve for the time you put in.
Hey, welcome to the Beginner Photography Podcast, brought to you by CloudSpot, the easiest way to deliver and sell your photos online. I'm your host, Raymond Hadfield, and each week I interview one of the world's most interesting photographers to learn what it really takes to capture beautiful images and compelling stories so that you can start to do the same. Now today, we have an episode from the BPP Vault. So after years of interviewing world-class photographers, we've built up quite a rich library of photo tips and tricks that guests share to help you to get better at capturing amazing images. Now, with new listeners finding the show every day, these rewind interviews allow for those new listeners to discover the gold photo nuggets of the past and allow long-time listeners to revisit and hear an interview with fresh ears and more behind the camera experience to draw from. So today we are chatting with Phillip Blume, who, along with his wife Eileen, is half of the family portrait duo The Blumes. You know, I figured with fall right around the corner, I thought this would be a pretty important episode because if you've ever thought about trying your hand at making some money with your camera or doing some sort of mini session, fall is the time to do it. Honestly, when people think fall, they think family photo mini sessions. And Phillip and Eileen have one of the most, easy to understand and implement approaches to mini sessions that I've ever heard. And today, Phillip is going to break down for you how they consistently bring home, I'm not making this up, $10,000 from their mini sessions. Yes, I know it sounds too good to be true. I know, but I'm going to let you listen to this one for yourself. And at the end of the interview, I'm actually going to share with you how much I earned using their exact method when I applied it to weddings. Yeah, and spoiler alert, it's almost double. Yeah, so stick around to the end. So Phillip also covers in this episode just shifting your focus from the products that you offer to the experience that you deliver, what you need to do if you want to build a healthy and sustainable photography business, and of course, some posing tips as well. We can't bypass that if we are talking about family sessions. So with that, let's go ahead and get on into today's interview with Phillip Blume. Listeners are going to remember from the last time that you were on that you were actually a high school English teacher before you got into photography. And Eileen, your wife, was working at Starbucks as a barista. You guys decided to shoot weddings when a friend of yours asked you to photograph their wedding. And then within that year, you two were able to go full time, which is something that obviously many photographers aspire to do. But in those early days, was your initial plan to just shoot weddings, or was it to take whatever came your way?
Yeah. Goodness, did we have a plan? I have no idea. We were flying by the seat of our pants at that point. And the whole idea of experiencing, the dream, realizing the dream of going full time so quickly as we did, it felt really good at the time, only because we didn't know the reality of what was going on under the surface and how our costs of doing business were outweighing our income and all those sorts of things. It's just, we were inexperienced and we didn't know what was going on. And I think that's the story for, I try not to feel too ashamed about that. I think it's the common story for a lot of us as we start photography businesses. It looked exciting on the outside that, within that first year, pretty much, we both left our jobs. We had to. We were just so overwhelmed with work, working into the night, putting off so many aspects of our personal life, not seeing our friends, to the point where, you get called up to hang out with friends and then they call us off and they just stop calling because they know the answer is always no. So we were really isolated in our work, you know what I mean? And that was a hard time for us, but it was at that point all wedding photography. And it just kind of happened that way, I guess by happenstance. But the more we started to get into the industry and listen to the fact that there are, a lot of the kind of rock star photographers and people we learned from were primarily wedding photographers. That was the whole kind of belief system was built around you have to specialize and niche down until you are super niche in your photography. And there are some marketing benefits to that. I think what I know now after 12 years of building a photography business that has done well, but also that leading to the freedom to build other businesses, is that niche is important when it comes to marketing. So there's this whole side of things that you have to separate out in your brain, where being niche is very important in how you market yourself and how you speak and how you sound to the client, specialized and expert, and they know you're going to do a great job there because you're not just doing everything. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't have to be the case in what you're doing behind the scenes. And in fact, a healthy business, and we'll go into this because it's kind of a part of our story, but we learned that a healthy business is not all tied up in one thing. It's diversified, diversification. Anyone in business understands how important diversification is. And yet many of us as artists getting started trying to be business people just kind of throw that away.
Yeah.
And so, even before the days of pandemics and things, when now, I think so many of us realize all of a sudden, many of our students who were focused 100% on weddings are in a really tight spot right now because weddings are postponed, canceling. The whole face of the wedding tradition industry and our culture may for years into the foreseeable future be completely and suddenly reshaped. And so we're grateful that kind of early on, from smaller, less traumatic experiences, we realized that doing weddings alone wasn't super safe or stable. We did actually broaden and become a diverse business that specializes in a lot of things, but you would never know that. If you go to our website, it looks like we're just wedding photographers, and kind of in the industry, that's what we've always been known as, is wedding photographers. And what people don't know, and we're going to talk a little bit about this today, Raymond, of course, but in the background, actually the most profitable part of our business that has kept it growing and scaling has nothing to do with weddings. So it's kind of funny to think that you can actually make a really successful, super profitable business without even showing the work on your website or mixing up your brand message at all.
Yeah, that's crazy, because I would think that common sense marketing would be to show what you want to sell, right? So it's really piqued my interest there to hear that, one of the most profitable parts of your business is not even weddings, which is what you would find on the homepage of your website. So how long were you shooting weddings before you decided to branch out into other areas of photography?
Yeah, so, and we still shoot weddings. We limit ourselves to, we won't do more than, we aim for 5. Sometimes we'll take on a couple extra. We'll do up to 8 a year. And they're all great, sort of luxury priced, high-end weddings. So it's very worth our while. And we love that still. We love the time with couples. As being just a wedding photography studio, just focused solely on that, I would say that lasted for maybe just for the first 2.5, 3 years of getting our business really rolling and kind of figuring out our branding and all of that over those first 3 years, which is a hard time. That's like that time in your business when you're climbing the curve and putting in all of the extra legwork to put your systems in place and working around the clock. And so during that time of just wedding, some of the experiences we had were like crazy stuff that maybe it was a fluke, but we realized that you can never predict everything. One example was one year, about 30% of our couples, so like 1 out of every 3 couples, broke up before their wedding. And so we had a sudden crash in like our numbers, and it was too late. You couldn't book a new wedding because dates were coming up, and we're like, this is kind of risky. How often does this happen? Maybe it was a fluke, but I had also lived in New Zealand during going to university there. And I had lived in a culture where marriage just wasn't a thing. I mean, most people don't get married. They'll couple up and have a family and stay together as much as we do, but the culture just didn't value the tradition of marriage and the ceremonial pieces of that. So I was like that, you look at politics and you look at different opinions on the things and you're like, who knows how long will that be around for my entire lifetime the way it is currently. So we get asked those questions. And I would say during those early days, we weren't charging as much for weddings as we do now. Mm-hmm. We were still learning out some pricing strategy and that sort of thing. And so we were more open to just taking whatever came our way. And we wanted to learn everything and figure out what did we really love? What do we want to put our effort into? So there was a lot of kind of having our fingers in many pies for sure. I think we believe the common belief, which is that the money is in weddings. Mm-hmm. And so we kept pursuing that. And what we found was when you break it down to actual hours spent on a project and you look at your workflows and you start realizing, oh man, my cost of goods can't just be, it's not just one day that you shoot a wedding.
Of course.
It's a day and then it's followed up by a week of post-processing. It's actually preceded by weeks of emails and drama occasionally from mothers of the bride and family situations and questions and answers. And so actually, all of that workload, and then you break it down into how much do we actually net in income at the end of all that. We're making, X amount per hour. It was something that we loved when we had our favorite couples. It was really a fun process. And a lot of times we had couples or their families who were difficult, and it was like, it's not worth the energy and really the anxiety. I think a lot of us, including myself, have a lot of anxiety building up to that big of a project when you're not just creating portraits, but you're on the hook for catching things in the moment that a lot is resting on your shoulders. So there's pressure there. So it's kind of leading into, I guess, kind of segueing into what did we realize getting away from that would be good to get into. We essentially came to a point in our business at the end of those 2 or 3 years where we saw we were losing money despite our endless work. We had a really hard year personally. Our marriage was suffering because we didn't have time even to invest in one another. And we wanted to start a family. That we had some hiccups along the way with all of that. And so essentially we said, we need to restructure our life. Basically, we need to restructure.
That's a big decision.
And decide, what are we doing with this business? What are our values? Like, do we want to just create pretty pictures and then time flies by and all of a sudden you're retiring, you're of retirement age, and you're looking back in your life and thinking, what did I achieve? Well, I took a lot of pretty pictures that ended up on CDs that got put in a junk drawer somewhere, and who knows? That's all exactly. That's all you created with your life. And so at that time, I think we talked about this a little bit before, Raymond, so I won't go into the story, but we ended up just needing to step away and pour ourselves into a personal project to kind of get our heads back together, and did a big personal project that went really well. We didn't get paid for it. It was kind of like we spent the last of what savings we had to do this project, helping kids in the third world, doing sort of documentary photo and video work. And it was so impactful and so effective beyond our expectations that we realized how powerful visual media is, how meaningful it can be, how just world changing it can be. And so when we came back, it was amazing how that personal project actually connected us with people who were interested in the work we were doing because they had a heart for the same thing. They shared our values. And we realized that really making sure that our brand was about something important that we believed in was going to help us connect with people on a deep level of trust. And that trust with a capital T really is the number one quality that leads to client conversion, client sales. If people trust you, they want to do business with you, they share your values. So that was great. And that actually fed back into our business completely unexpectedly. The problem was we came back from that project overseas and still had no money. we were literally bankrupt. We couldn't book weddings and then, low end cheap weddings and then try this new business structure in a year. When the weddings finally came around, we needed money right then. We couldn't pay our mortgage. We could barely buy groceries at the time. And so we decided mini sessions, let's just experiment with a new business structure. And what are we going to do? Oh, my goodness. I guess we'll just let's do a weekend of mini sessions and experiment with some business structure stuff. We hate mini sessions. This is the last thing we want to do. We had tried mini sessions once before and it was a huge failure. Mm-hmm. And so we tried it in this new upside down kind of way. And literally 2 weeks later, we do it. And we walk away from that weekend with over $8,000 from mini sessions. Wow. And we didn't even shoot that many portrait clients. It's not like it was all about booking tons of people. It was just like huge print sales from putting the system into place. And we realized, my goodness, not only can we apply this system now to our weddings and make our weddings luxury, but maybe we actually step back a bit from weddings and continue doing these mini sessions, because hour for hour, we were actually profiting like 2-3 times more than weddings, hour for hour of work, just doing mini sessions above weddings. So it's been really cool to see now after a decade that has not only been sustainable and continued to work, but that we've been able to kind of like tweak it over a decade and make it even more profitable and see it work in markets all around the country. So that's kind of our crazy roller coaster of a story through our business and life.
Wow. So you mentioned that there's obviously a lot to get into, but I'm really interested in obviously making money with mini sessions. And you mentioned there earlier that when you first had your shot at mini sessions in the beginning, you failed and that it was a disaster for you. So what was it that made you think, you know what, we're going to give this another shot and we're going to put in all that effort again and hope that it turns out better this time?
Yeah, desperation, but
I mean, that's as good enough of a reason as it.
But I think one thing was when we came home from that trip, we put our heads down and realized when we started our business up until now, we were artists. We didn't even know we were going to start a photography business. It just kind of got away from us and people started calling and we started booking weddings and stuff. And we didn't price it right. We didn't structure it right. We thought we're creatives. We'll reinvent the wheel and we'll kind of have this successful thing. We'll do it. We won't just do some things differently. We'll do everything differently than everyone. And it will be.
Yep.
So it was chaotic, to say the least. When we came home, we're like, okay, we're pretty humbled at this point in our lives. And we say, Eileen, my wife, we're the Blooms. We work together. We say, Eileen, like, you have a business degree. Let's start thinking about what you learned in college. Like, let's look at what are some of these business principles and financial principles that you sat in a classroom and dug through books and have been tested for centuries, almost scientifically.
That's a wild idea.
They're all, crazy, right?
Yeah,
we artists refuse that sometimes, but it's based on human psychology, marketing psychology, and we put a lot of that into place. And we got mentors, not only in the industry to learn, kind of go where we wanted to go with our photography, but mentors almost like life coach style to guide us into making sure that we knew our values and based our business on that and achieved our goals. So that really played into it. And we're like, okay, now we have this system in hand that is proven, that is experts have shown this to work for centuries. Now we just want to use it in a new way. We just want to use it in a way that maybe no one's used it before, but we have to trust the system. Mm-hmm. And so we basically, I think that's what gave us some confidence. We're like, okay, it's mini sessions. We know they don't work from personal experience, but let's apply this system and everything we know. We're just going to put faith in the fact that this pricing structure, this marketing technique, everything should work. It's proven. And that, so we were pleasantly shocked when the money flowed in that first weekend trying it. But we weren't 100% shocked. We weren't surprised because we knew that it should. The difference was this, Raymond. It basically came down to, we all know what a mini session is when we think about one in our minds. It's almost universal. It's crazy. Whenever we teach this, we'll ask people to write down secretly, what is your definition in your mind when you think of a mini session? How much does it cost? What's included, et cetera? And the answers on the paper will all be almost identical. Mm-hmm. The same thing if you just go in at the beginning of fall or spring and type hashtag mini sessions onto Instagram, and you'll get post after post, and they're all virtually identical from around the world. Everybody's doing about $100, $150 is kind of the average around the world. Why are we all doing this the same? It's because we look at each other and we copy each other. And we don't ever ask the question of why do we do it this way? We just copy. And so it spreads like wildfire, or more like a virus. Let's put it that way because it's negative. And also we tend to give away about 10 or 15 digital images. So that's included. And it's we don't even ask, why are we limiting our clients? Almost making it there's other images they're going to like, but you're going to keep those away from them because you're it's almost punitive. It's well, you didn't pay enough because it's just a little mini session. You only paid $150. You don't deserve more than 10 images. And even if they're okay, I understand this is a cheapo kind of product, fine. The client's okay with that. They still don't go away with a great, satisfied taste in their mouth. Yes. They go away with this was limited. This was not a full experience. And if Eileen and I have learned anything, is that people don't buy products. Mm-hmm. Russell Brunson says it really well. People don't buy products. People buy offers and experiences. And that's what ideal clients, if you study marketing research, they're called NEOs in economic terms, but the best ideal clients who are happy to spend money on things that give them great life experience and improve the quality of life, mm-hmm. Those people, they're not looking for deals and sales. that's too much stress for them. There's a whole crowd that just goes to Walmart and looks for sales all the time. There's a whole crowd of the market who is looking for experience. And if you can sell that, that's where photographers need to park and run their businesses from, because we're not selling a commodity. We run our businesses like commodity businesses, as if we're selling reams of paper at Dunder Mifflin or something like that. And that's not what we're not just selling paper. The images, the print may be made of paper, but the images on there, and more than that, the relationships they represent and the experience that your client has during a session while they're interacting for their portraits, and how your image then sparks the memory of those feelings. If you are able to sell all of that instead of just selling paper and saying, well, my pictures are the prettiest, and you can say something different like, we help your family to connect and to remember that family comes first every time that you see your artwork on the wall in your beautiful home. And if you sell what your portraits do instead of what they are, then all of a sudden you're going to attract ideal clients who are very happy to pay the amount that you deserve for the time you put in. And it becomes a lot less stress, because you're not always chasing, feeling desperate to book every person in your market. You just want to book a few people, and they're in secret, kind of side note here, very open secret, is that they're a lot easier to find, those ideal clients, than most people think. It's not a huge challenge. You can find them pretty easily once you know how. Once you have those types of people, then you don't need to spend 3-4 hours with them photographing them until their kids are exhausted and cranky and dad has lost his patience and just wants to go. Why do we think that we have to just keep giving them more and more time for a full length session, when what you can really do is bring them in and give them just enough time to create the portraits that you, through a system, have learned that they need and will serve them best. Just get those portraits, create exactly what you know that they're going to value and purchase. And then all of a sudden you have a business that is selling artwork, that is not just selling time. You can't trade your time for money forever. If you trade your time for money, you will sell your life away. What you have to do is create something of value that then the client can buy, and you can multiply that product, and it can sell more and more copies of that product, essentially, while you sit at home and enjoy your life, spend it with your family. So that's the real change. And that's kind of a big way to describe it. But I think my mind had to go through that big of a mental shift over time to realize how different a photography business could look.
Yeah, and that makes sense, but I still got a few questions here, and I know that, one thing that I'm thinking, and I'm sure that many others are thinking right now, is that you had talked about there's many people who, just go to Walmart and they look for the best value or they look for discounts, but the ideal client is somebody who's looking for those experiences, is looking for a great time and something unique to them. Well, then what is it about those mini sessions? Why aren't mini sessions just for clients who can't afford the full session? How are they related, and how are they different from each other?
Yeah. And it's funny because like some of our students, some of the people in our coaching program, depending, some of them have made the choice to not even use the words mini sessions. We always have, and it hasn't been a problem for us in our market, but there is concern out there that I understand. Like if you use that term, we talked about photographers all have in their minds what that means. Yeah. And they're thinking, a lot of people in my market, a lot of customers already have a preconceived notion of what that means. And so I'm just not going to use the term at all. But we still use the term personally because it's just kind of a gateway is how I think of this. So people are looking for mini sessions at a certain season. Often it's seasonal when we do our public mini sessions. We might not have time to get into it now, but we're doing mini sessions all year long. We keep them a secret, which is wild how you can book up mini sessions while keeping them a secret. Yeah. But we do publicize them twice a year in the spring and fall, and people are looking for that. So when you promote yours, it catches their eye. And next, we do something which is odd, which is we break the mold. We know that our system, when you put it all together, will attract ideal clients. But we know that, interestingly, even ideal clients are usually attracted at the front end in the same way that those traditional bargain hunting clients are, which is with a special offer. And that's just human psychology. So we'll make our mini sessions actually cost a lot less than $100 or $150 or whatever that going rate is. So we break the mold. People are like, oh, what's this? Okay, I'm looking for this. This looks like an interesting promotion. Let me check on this. And then they'll inquire with us through kind of a back-end link, a back-end website. It's not even public for anyone to go to. It's very kind of, you have to find our promotion, our advertisement, or our personal email that arrives in your inbox, and you feel very exclusive because it's not just available to everybody. You take that link and it gives you limited options. It's not just, you can book a portrait session with us anytime, open-ended. No, it has all of the ingredients to help someone. And this is really what marketing is. It's helping people overcome mental blocks. And we all have these. Like, I think sometimes we just feel guilty, like, oh, I'm not a very organized or disciplined person. I'm always wasting time on Facebook. I'm always doing this, and everyone else is so good. No, we all as humans struggle to get our priorities straight and to remain effective and to achieve the things in our lives that we want to achieve. We all struggle with that. And that's true for our clients as well. So the best thing we can do is serve them by helping them not only see the value in photography, but help them to attain it and get past that speed bump of putting it off forever, right? So most of the time people will put it off and they'll look back with regret that they never did it. What we do is we say it's now, it's these dates. You come to the location we choose. We're not going to give you lots of options. Where do you want to shoot? What style do you want? No, when it comes to mini sessions, this is what it is. It's a great front end value, and let's just help you get this done. So we're literally like being life coaches to them and getting them past the speed bump. And then once they opt in, oh, I'd like to do that. Yes, I would choose this time on the date that you offered. You know, that's that one Friday and Saturday that you offered, I'm available this time, and they choose the time. And then it starts a series of communication to them. So they're not booked automatically. In fact, we make it a little bit hard for them to book because we know that the goal of marketing is not, this is something that Seth Godin, the father of modern marketing, says, the goal of marketing is not to attract clients only. It's also to repel clients.
Yes.
So literally good marketing, it may catch a lot of eyeballs, but the last thing you want to do, and I was guilty of this for years, if someone inquired with us, I was like, oh my gosh, like inquiries do not come through every single day. I've got to book this person. And so I sounded desperate. I acted desperate. I tried to book everyone. Now with this system, we get so many inquiries. What I know is that I actually want most of them to disappear. I'm happy when most of them ghost because I don't want to spend a ton of time with clients who aren't going to value what I do. I want to filter out and discover the few clients who I can spend a fair amount of time with, get a lot of income, and go about my life, not be weighed down by trying to compete with other photographers. So I'm the only photographer in town and serve everybody. I never want to do that anymore.
Yes.
That was kind of the key. And now, even though the front end price is so low, that system of communication that they're put through, that series of emails that explains to them what the experience is going to be like, what the session is going to be like, and then very clearly what the pricing is like, why the prints are sold separately, and how you can purchase those. And it's all strategically priced, so it's very appealing. And frankly, it can serve anyone of any income level. But it gets people invested in the experience before they've even had a photo shoot. And then those who do commit and sign the contract are absolutely ideal clients. And we'll typically shoot about 6 families per day during our mini sessions. So it's very relaxed. Some of our students do 12 a day. Wow. And we just slice that in half because it's like, we want to be home in time to cook supper and be with our kids on a mini session day. No more of this like long wedding day type stuff for us. We're done with that. So it's very relaxed, 6 a day. And we do that for 2 days. And on average, for Eileen and me, and this is not to like overpromise and raise expectations too high, but we've been doing this for 10 years. So our mini sessions average about $1,200 in print sales per 20-minute session. So we'll be doing, after 12 sessions on a weekend, well over $10,000, maybe $10,000 or $12,000 or more per weekend, which is more than we can make from very stressful, more involved weddings.
Okay,
right?
hold on.
Do the math, right? It's easy.
So, wait. Okay, so we're talking about these $150 sessions that most people do, right, for 20 minutes. This is like $450 an hour. That sounds pretty good to me, right? You two decide, you know what, we're actually going to charge much less than this. And now you're bringing home, 10 times the amount of money, right?
Oh yeah, 10 times easily.
Please just give me a 50,000 foot overview of how this mini session system works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because honestly, this is counterintuitive, but it's so much more honest. Like if you want to run an ethical business that actually serves people, I don't know why all of us as photographers, like as a general rule, do it backwards from every other honest business out there. We say, pay us ahead of time. And if you pay us, this either large sum or this moderately large sum, then we'll produce a product for you. And you have no idea what it's going to look like. You have no idea what it's going to come out like, but I'm asking you to trust me. And trust is required for conversions, for someone to book you. That's the number one quality we talked about, right? So if you put a big front end price out there and are like, this is just an all-inclusive thing, just pay it and trust me, you're asking for a lot of trust. You're asking for a lot. And that takes a huge amount of work. We wonder why our conversion rates are low. It's because you're asking for too much trust for most people than they can give you. Maybe just not because you're a bad person, it's because their personality type or what most people's needs are. So what we do what we believe is that ideally, and okay, I'm going to give you a deeper level kind of little secret behind the scenes here.
I love it. This is your specialty.
I open book. So when it comes to mind, I have to share it. But ultimately, the ideal price to put on any photo session is free. It's $0. And frankly, I mentioned we're doing photo sessions all year long, but secretly we never publicize it. We don't post on Facebook about it. And none of that. It's because we partnered with all kinds of ideal partners, whether it's businesses or charities or people who we also have value to offer to them. And this whole program helps them as well. They are constantly giving out our certificates to people as a gift from their business or from their charity as a way to raise money for them. So it's actually helping charities and doing good. And the certificates are ending up in people's hands and they're coming to us for free sessions. And we're of course very clear, like the session is free. We even include a small print as well. So whatever that favorite image is, you're sure to walk away with a full product. But what we're doing is giving them the experience first. We're creating the product first. We show it to them. And now very little trust is required because they're looking at the images. They're like, I don't have to guess at what they're going to look like. I know what they look like. I'm in love with them. I see how much value they hold. Now I believe that they're worth that. And I'm ready and willing to pay like that for it. And there's a whole, part, just as much as we're talking about, there's a system and a process for booking mini sessions. There's also an equally strategic system and process for selling prints, which is all part of what we do. And you can do it in person. Personally, we love in-person sales because it's the only time we really spend with our clients anymore. We used to go out with clients, buy them dinner and spend a lot of extra time. We have 3 kids. We don't have time for all that anymore. It was fun, but it was expensive and kind of indirect. It benefited our business indirectly. Now the time we spend with our clients is in a sales room while they hand us money. The whole experience is great. They love the experience, even though they're paying us for it, which is a very nice change of pace.
Of course.
But that said, we learned so much over 10 years of doing in-person sales and listening to clients about what it is they love about their pictures. And that has taught us a lot. So we encourage it. But most of our sales sessions, at least half of our sales sessions, we actually do through an online mobile strategy that we have actually had our online sales averages equal to our in-person sales averages, which everyone told us was impossible at the beginning.
Right.
But we had to do it because we were doing destination weddings across overseas, and we just weren't willing to completely let go of our wedding album sales, our print sales. So we got to figure out a way. And so we really practiced that on weddings, and now we use it sometimes even for our local sessions. During COVID, it's been great because we've been able to just run it through the online system and just have that money coming in without even having to sit in the sales room with anyone.
That is incredible. That is incredible. So correct me if I'm wrong. The idea here is to lower the barrier to entry for them to become clients to as low as humanly possible, as low as you're comfortable with.
Right.
And then after the fact, show them the experience that you've had. And then because of reciprocity and their genuine enjoyment of the session that they had with you, they're going to be more willing to make larger purchases because there's already that trust there instead of front loading the whole transaction with hoping that there's trust.
Exactly. Reciprocity, all those things are really big part of it, that we know those are part of human and marketing psychology. But I think even just more on a very practical, reliable level, it's like any business, whether it's a mechanic or a plumber or someone comes in and says, they haven't even looked at the problem yet or diagnosed it, and they're just saying, just pay me X flat amount and then I'll see what I can do for you. You'll never do that.
Never.
You get the service, you get a quote, you know what it's going to be, and then you pay after the fact for what you expected. Your expectations were met. For some reason, as an industry, we haven't been doing that. So it's just the simplicity of creating and serving someone well, and then their expectations were met. So missed expectations leads to frustration. You take all the frustration out of the business equation now, and people leave, like, after handing you $1,200 for prints, they walk out the door hugging you and smiling and saying, we can't wait to put these on our walls. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but now all of a sudden we're not doing like all kinds of marketing, because literally our clients are paying for huge prints, putting them in their homes. When their friends come over, their friends are like, who did that for you? Like, that's amazing. Our family needs to have that done. It's beautiful in your home. And they're telling them not only about, the Bloomes, they're also saying, the experience was like this. This is how it was so unique, the way we connected during the shoot and all of these fun things we did. We were only together for 20 minutes, but we created all of these fun scenarios and games. We still connect with the kids with some of these games that we learned during our photo session. They are out there without us even asking them to, telling others that they have to come to us for these portraits. And they're literally paying us for these giant advertisements, is the way I think of it, pictures that they're putting on the walls of their homes and inviting people in to look at. So it's just like free advertising everywhere you look.
That's incredible. That is so great I'm sure to have that feeling when you get that referral, knowing that somebody loved what it was that you created for them so much that they wanted their friends or somebody who they love and trust to share in the same thing because of you. That's great.
It is. Great. It feels good.
So what I want to know is that there's a lot of photographers out there, yourself included. When you first started, you had a hard time with those mini sessions. For those photographers who want to make good, consistent money with their cameras, what's the one tweak that you would suggest to them to turn it all around when it comes to booking mini sessions, maybe they struggle with?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing is, if you're brand new out of the gate, you may need to just, all of us can kind of like experience this and learn it the hard way, or we can listen to those who have been there before and kind of see the reason behind it, mm-hmm. and hopefully just accept it and avoid some pain. But essentially, the best thing you can do is, if you're brand new out of the gate, you need to create some portfolio. Don't try to go out there and do like bargain for sale session prices that are just under who you think the competition around you is, mm-hmm. and then expect people to be grateful. And anyone who's tried this knows it's really ironic, but it is the consistent experience. Whenever you give someone like a bargain or a discount or a special, it's because you want to take some photos of them and create a portfolio, those always seem to end up being the least grateful clients you ever have, even though you're trying to like do a favor for them. Yeah. They become the most demanding. You kind of set the tone. So now that they know that you need them, and they'll start asking you for more things. And so it's what I would say is, go out there and create your portfolio, but do it for free. Like, mm-hmm. just do it as a gift. Create great experiences for these people that you give them no reason to feel like you have taken anything out of it from it. That's all for them. So one of the greatest assets that you have in your business is positive reviews and positive feedback, social proof that you'll share with others. So don't just think of building your portfolio as building an image collection. Think of it also as building a portfolio of client experiences and reviews that you're going to be able to share. So do it for free. And then when it comes time to be professional, sell your work, you don't have to wait a long time to do that. If you have the pieces in place, you can do it quickly, especially if you're not having to book weddings and like build portfolio over a period of a year or 2 years. You can build portfolio in one day with mini sessions. So build that, go out there, and then learn what you can about strategic pricing and charge what you're worth. There's formulas for this that we teach that you can learn They're not only applicable to photography, they're applicable to all kinds of businesses, but figure out what your cost of goods are, calculate what time you're putting in, and make sure you know that you're considering all of that when you decide how to charge for your prints. Because a lot of us think, I'm just kind of doing this on the fly. Maybe I should charge a lot less for an 8x10 because it's just a piece of paper really, and it's so small, and I only pay $4 for it. Mm-hmm. I know that Walmart, I think that retail basically like does 2 times on price. So I shouldn't charge more than $10 for this thing if I'm more than doubling it, right?
Yeah.
And what we don't realize is we haven't learned all about opportunity costs, and we haven't plugged into that formula the cost of time, cost of goods, and those things. And so just as one hand that everyone can use out there who's listening now, really practically. Eileen and I go with anyone who are mentoring one-on-one, we actually take a look at their market and figure out what should they charge for an 8x10, because that's the foundation. If you charge the wrong amount for your 8x10, your sales will fall flat everywhere. They'll all fail. So I will just say this, anywhere we've looked in the United States, in the worst markets possible, and including ours, which I'll mention in just a second, the lowest price that we've ever suggested someone should charge for an 8x10 print is $45 for their market. Lowest possible.
That's like 11 times what cost would be. That's a lot more than something like retail.
In terms of the material cost, right? But then there's other costs to take into consideration. And so if you're charging less than that, you're basically not only undercutting your sales of more specialty items, but you're really, without even knowing it, and we've learned this from a decade of actually having our clients in the studio and listening to them, you're actually undercutting their desire. Because a lot of times in the back of a client's mind, they're like, I was about to get this enlargement. This would be an heirloom. This is a picture that will always represent our family in our minds for the rest of our lives as we grow older. At this moment, I just can't justify it because there's a $12 8x10 available here. And I can get the same image. It's still the same image. It's not going to be beautiful above the mantle like I pictured it. It's not going to be something that we talk about and kind of gather around in our home. But really for right now, I just have to settle for this lower cost today. And so what we do is we undercut what people really want, and we drive them through guilt, essentially, to buy something really cheap. And we won't get into all of this right now. We won't have time. But the biggest mistake many of us make, especially in wedding photography, when we solely focus on that, is that you don't really have repeat clients, right? How many of your clients get divorced and then come back to you for their wedding photography again?
Hopefully none.
It's not a real repeat business. The greatest strength of business is client loyalty and repeat business. Mm-hmm. And if you just have a handful of clients in this genre, it ends up with a client loyalty program that works. You'll have people coming back to you again and again every year. It never gets old for them because it's part of their lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that. That is something that is always so hard, and something that I try to, I have a series of emails that goes out like way after a wedding, like, hey, welcome, happy first anniversary, first anniversary session, or just trying to get them to come.
You'd love to get them to become family clients.
Of course. Of course. And that's so hard. And that's what I really like there about that tip, just trying to get them back. Why do you think that your marketing for your minis works so well compared to others?
Well, it starts a conversation. There's so many things that come into marketing. It's the pictures we use. So much that Eileen and I have learned about visual communications. I was a journalist before we started. I was trained in photojournalism. And one of the fascinating statistics I remember learning was that a front page news story in the New York Times or any big paper, it doesn't matter how world changing or how important that story is, on the front page, it'll only be read by about 17% of the audience, those who pick up the paper. Only about 17% will kind of read into that article until and unless you put a small photo or graphic or something with that. Then all of a sudden, almost 80% of people will read through that story because there was a little image or graphic with it.
That's incredible. So it's a huge boost.
It changes the game, right? So we're literally visual creatures, and it's hard to overemphasize that. We're so visual. So making sure that when you do market, something like with posts and things online, not only that you use an image as the focus, like put an image and then write some post, but you turn that image into an infographic. So some of the info is immediately digestible in the image. You have some of the verbiage on that picture. And what we know also about, we're learning this now with AI and facial recognition software and how powerful it is. Well, the reason it works so well in our different applications of it is because it's so human. Like our brains are AI software, that facial recognition software that connects so strongly and processes so much just by looking at another person's face. So make sure when you're choosing an image, you're not doing like your coolest landscape picture with where the people are little ants on the horizon. And it's beautiful. I know it's an award-winning photo, but use a photo that's close up, that as portfolio that you have that really expresses emotion. And then a foundation of under all of that is your copy. It's so important. Most of us write the opposite of attractive sales copy, marketing copy. We usually say negative things like, don't forget to send out Christmas cards again this year,
right.
Book a session, and don't do this, don't do that. And immediately the way the human brain works, from just what we know through psychology, is that every time you hit on something that is negative, it actually opens up a folder and it raises memories associated with negative feelings. So someone may actually see your well-intentioned advertisement, read the first line of your post and be like, all they remember is all the guilt they felt about failing last Christmas. And wow. Not only that they didn't get out their Christmas cards, but they didn't get grandma the present she liked and all these. So you've opened a negative folder. What if we did something opposite? Out of dozens of examples, I'll just give one. Like we ran copy that said, is your family the most fun in Athens? If so, there are limited openings to apply, not book us, but you have to apply. Like you're lucky if you get into this. Apply for your spot in Athens' favorite upcoming holiday mini sessions. And so we're keeping it positive. We're making it exclusive. And basically, people want to realize the aspirations that they have for themselves. Mm-hmm. So if they know that it's valuable to them to be a fun family, to have interactions where their kids know that they're loved and they feel embraced, we're going to attract really fun families with that ad, not the stuffy families where the dad's like, stand up straight and spank the kid because he didn't smile for the photo.
Oh, geez, yeah.
And so we saw a remarkable change as we started changing our ad copy and even the kind of clients who showed up and how quickly they booked as a result as well.
That is a perfect tip right there, and something that I have definitely made the mistake of doing in my own ads where, you use the beautiful landscape with the tiny little people, because it is a beautiful photo, but you're absolutely right. That is the worst photo that you can use to get somebody to connect with your ad. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. What I want to know right now is that there are going to be people listening to this who think to themselves, wait a second, a $1,200 average is crazy. There's no way that my market can sustain that. So what do you say to those people?
Now, Eileen's in my market that we started our business in and where we still do our business has the highest poverty rate in the United States of America. So we know something about hard markets. Our closest town 20 minutes away is 100,000 people. And the majority of that is so close to the poverty line or below. There's only a small number of people who we can even target and grow our business through. But that's all you need. It doesn't matter how much competition around. It doesn't matter how small your market, how poor your market. If you're serving the right people the right way, you only need a handful of clients every year.
That is incredible, especially because, as you said, you live in one of the most impoverished markets in the entire United States. So to know that your system has not only worked for you, obviously, like if it works for you, it's going to work everywhere else in the country, which you've shown by the success stories of your students. When it comes to mini sessions, though, one thing that I struggled with, and I know that many others struggle with as well, is that if you're doing such a short session, how do you possibly get enough variety in your images?
Yeah, and this is the great thing, is that we have to sort of step back and ask ourselves a question, which is just like we were talking earlier about what should a mini session be, what you should include. What are the assumptions we're making about what a photo shoot has to be? And I'm not here to tell anybody like you're doing it wrong and let me tell you the right way. There's actually a lot of open space for you to do it exactly how you want. But you have to ask yourself why first. So, for example, Eileen and I create a lot of variety in 20 minutes. Our style, what I do, and one thing I am very proud of, I'm not humble about this at all. I'm a child whisperer. I know how to, kids and I are, maybe it's because we're on the same level and I'm so mature, but I connect and I can control the experience with kids. They're like putty in my hands. So what we do, and we teach this a lot to our students as well. So even if don't feel naturally gifted at working with kids, a lot of this is just stuff that we even learned when we were adopting our son. And we had to go through so much training of like how to deal with kids who come from traumatic experiences in the foster or adoption world overseas and connecting with them. And it works for every kid. So what we'll do is when our families arrive, I don't greet the parents first as if they're my peers. I immediately get excited and wide-eyed and are like, kid, oh my gosh, Jimmy, Janice, I've got their names on my sheet because we sent a survey out before the session. I know who they are. I already know what they're into. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know you really love unicorns, right? That's my favorite animal. I can't wait to have some fun with you. I heard all about you. So I greet them first, and the parents know I'm going to do that. So it's not creepy, right? We've had this communication beforehand through these automated emails. They know exactly what to expect. But man, I'm there for the kids. And I tell them, hey, we have a secret. And the secret is your parents can't hear. And of course, they all know this is coming. And I don't tell them exactly what we're going to do. All I do is get them on my side. I say, your mom and dad think that this is regular old boring pictures, but actually we're going to really surprise them and make them laugh like crazy. Will you help me do that? Oh man, like at that point, instead of being an authority figure, which is why kids test authority and they'll test limits, and you end up with a really difficult situation on your hand that you can't control unless you try to bribe, and that doesn't work. Instead, now I am in cahoots with them, and they will do anything I say because we together are testing the authority, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So I'll get it. And next step is to get exactly what I want. I'll say, hey, look, come sit over here. Don't worry, mom and dad. This is just a perfect, normal picture. Janice and Jimmy are just such little angels. Look at them smiling like little angels. And they will smile. They'll do exactly what I say, just as I say it, because it sounds like a joke building up to something. So I get my perfect portrait. I get that. And then we have what we call balloon theory posing that Eileen and I kind of created a book around. But once we're there, I'll say, now I'm going to count to 3, 1, 2, 3. And then there's a whole number of scenarios that we might end that perfect shot with. And it explodes into laughter, tickling, whatever it is. And we run in and get just a number of angles, close-ups, medium shots of interactions. And those, crazy enough, like that one perfect picture may end up being the one over their mantle. Mm-hmm. But all of those authentic expressions, connecting moments, dozens of little like quick snaps that we take that will never win a print award, those end up filling coffee table albums and other products, and they're just become the favorite images of our clients. And so we kind of go trigger happy between the perfect moments, but we just repeat that over and over again and get as many perfect pictures as we want, and then a bunch of playful ones in between. Some of our students, they use a part of the system that we also do, but they use it only, and they kind of stay away from the mass creation of images. And they're more formal in their style. And they know exactly what portraits the family wants and where they want them in their home ahead of time. Mm-hmm. We used to do this by actually visiting people's homes and having a consultation to choose this ahead of time. Now we do it all through our online system. So all you really need ultimately is, like, most of our clients are going home with about 3, 4, or 5 pictures. That's ultimately, they're getting enlargements of 3, 4, or 5 favorite pictures. And that's what's adding up to our big sale. So if you just get 3, 4, or 5 pictures and you know ahead what they want, so you make sure to focus on that, then you're set. Like, you can just take a session for 20 minutes and get 5 pictures and you're good to go. So you can do it either way. I kind of enjoy them both.
Yeah, especially what's great to hear about that is that I know when I show up for an engagement session, usually those first few photos I know are just going to be throwaways. It's just to try to get them warmed up to the camera. Mm-hmm. But that little exercise right there ensures, obviously because you have such a short amount of time, that you're able to get them to connect and get photos that you know that they're going to love right off the bat. That's fantastic. That is a great tip. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Changed our world.
Yeah, I would imagine. But one of the big, I think, underlying questions that we have here about mini sessions that sometimes I think, sometimes other people think, is that all of this, what you're saying today, sounds great. All this about mini sessions, making good, consistent amount of money is wonderful. Having better connection with our clients, all this is great. But isn't ultimately the mini session just simply going to undercut our regular sessions?
It's a great question because it's the question that everyone asks. Yeah. I've heard this hundreds of times over the years. My immediate kind of response that maybe kind of takes someone off their guard is, so what? Isn't that what you want? Don't you want to just do mini sessions if they make this much? Like, you can just spend 20 minutes on your sessions. You can ask people to come to you. I mean, most of our mini sessions we do in our backyard. We don't go to some special location. We still offer full length sessions. If people want if they have a special place they need to do it, they want to do it at their home. They have a big family reunion, and they're going to have several families and big groups. And well, we still do those sorts of things mostly because clients who are loyal to us through our mini sessions need those services as well. And that's full length, different product. But mostly what I want to do is people just to come to my backyard for 20 minutes and get, over $1,000 a pop every time. That's what I want. Now, that said, our business, we still photograph during normal times. We still photograph up to 8 weddings, really great weddings a year. Only the clients that we want to photograph. Now, how do you know what clients you want to photograph? You hear people say that, like, we photograph the best weddings, the most. How do you know? Did you know the people? You didn't experience much with them other than their inquiry when they inquired about their wedding. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you how that works for us, because our mini sessions have led to almost all of our weddings and larger sessions now. So it doesn't undercut. In fact, this is hilarious because I'm so glad you asked that. We have all of our cards and graduation. I'll cover her name so I'm not like blasting her on the interwebs. But yesterday, day before yesterday, booked the wedding for this girl. Now we took this picture as a senior photo shoot mini session. We do our minis for seniors as well. And this was a mini session that we did 5-6 years ago. Wow. And yesterday booked an $8,000 wedding package for this girl. She's getting married now, 5 or 6 years later. So that's just one example, like, that happens to be right in front of me here. But it's literally our mini sessions, because we now have a connection to so many clients over a short period of time. It's not like we worked with 20 wedding clients and that's all we did the whole year. No, we've every weekend that we choose to do a mini session, we're working with 12 clients just that weekend in a short amount of time. So it leads to so many connections and so many more inquiries for weddings and every other thing.
Wow. Yeah, that response right there of the, so what, essentially. Yeah. Oh my gosh, just totally reframed, I think, the way that I look at mini sessions. And I really hope that it reframes the way that many others look at mini sessions as well, because you're right. I mean, ultimately, if you were to just do an hour-long session, you could only hope for like a $1,200 sale. Why not want to get that down to just 20 minutes of shooting? That is fantastic.
Yeah, and you just can't market. You can't market the same way with longer sessions because you can't do them back to back and fill a day. You can maybe do 2 or 3 sessions a day if you're doing. And nobody wants you to just keep shooting photographs of them all day. When you do, they start to wonder, like, did we not get some good ones already? Why do we keep going? You could shoot forever. But really what matters is a great experience, which generally takes place. Brevity is the soul of wit. Brevity is the soul of a lot of good experiences. What matters is that experience, and what matters is the product. And you don't need to shoot all day long. You stop trading your time for money.
Yeah. I'm interested to know, what is, for you, when you have such a short amount of time, when you have such a diverse set of things that you're shooting, whether it be seniors, whether it be families, what's the one shot or what's the one thing that just either has to happen or you have to get in order for you to consider that mini session a success?
Yeah, to me, it's kind of one simple thing. It's like that standard camera-aware formal portrait, which it ends up not being the main thing, but it is something that I have to get. And I get that so easily just at the outset of the shoot. And then it's really, ideally, I'm wanting to get authenticity, because what people want in photos is the same thing I want when I open up this album that I dug up from my family's history of black and white photos. Like, literally, after my grandmother passed away, my dad went up to Illinois and brought home all these things from her home. One was amazing. It was albums full of photos going back in the family back to Italy, where like the kids had these ruffled collars. Oh, wow. Crazy stuff. I had never even seen that. And to look at these pictures and be like, oh my gosh, like this isn't like a fake black and white photo made at some studio at Six Flags or something. This is like legit old-timey clothes and black and white. And these people look like us, like they're our family. It's nuts. And it gives you perspective on identity. It makes you think, it makes you grow, I think, and understand your place in the world. And that's kind of on a historic scale. But when you just look at the pictures of yourself as a kid and you're reminded who you are in relation to your family and the important people around you, that provides a valuable experience to all of us that we can't overestimate. So ultimately I'm wanting to get those authentic portraits. And to do that, I had to let go of a lot of ego. I remember when I started shooting seniors, for example, like this lovely young lady, I was always like, I've got to be cool. These seniors, they're young, they're hip. That's what
I think. That's why I haven't gotten into
it. I need to like be the one that they want to hang out with because they think I'm a rock star. Opposite is true. These kids I'll tell you what's going on in their heads because I've learned it over time. They're so sick of all the inauthenticity and all the people at school trying to be cool. They're sick of it. When I photograph a senior, I'm like, hey, listen, I am so sorry. I'm probably going to be a complete doofus because I've spent all week photographing 6-year-olds and I'm a dad myself. And so you're going to hear a lot of bad dad jokes. And if I need her to pose, I'm showing her how to pose and just everything. And I'll be completely a ham and I'll completely make a fool of myself. And anything I want her to do, anything I want my senior guys to do, I model it first. And if I'm willing to put myself out there and do it first, then all of a sudden they know they're in this safe space. There's like, so they can actually breathe. They're away from school and all the ridiculous drama. And they're finally in an environment where like, I'm like a dad figure and they can just be an honest version of themselves. I find that like those kinds of tips, that kind of authenticity is what I want most out of my photographs. That's what serves the most value to my clients over the years and actually has purpose. And it ends up being a lot less work and stress to get that if you just loosen up yourself.
Yeah, and that's definitely the type of the photo that I would rather have of my children than like you said, we have the camera aware photo, the whole family sitting above in the living room, but it's those photos of them being authentic to who they are that we truly value the most. So
yeah, it doesn't have to be epic. It's just you.
Doesn't have to be epic. There goes back to that big landscape, tiny people photo. I would love that of my family, but anyway. I know that I've kept you for far too long today, but before I let you go, is there anything that maybe I didn't ask that you want to make sure that the listeners know or understand about doing mini sessions?
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing where as photographers, we get into this business and we realize that photography is about 10% of what we do. And the other 90% is running a business. Mm-hmm. And so the one thing that we have been Eileen and I have been more proud of than anything is just over our career, building community where people don't feel like they're competing with one another, but where we're collaborating together. So that is our Come Unity community. So it's literally spelled like Come Unity. It's the cry of our hearts that we would bring our life, our personal life, our businesses, and our art all together. And they're not competing against each other for time and for a place in our lives, but it's all unified. So Come Unity is we have a Facebook mastermind group that's free. I would love anyone who's listening to just come and be a part of that group. And then for those who want to really reshape their business, we're coaching for years, even through PPA and other organizations who have sponsored our tours around the country to do and help photographers restructure their businesses or get their businesses going with minis. We were only able to do so many people one-on-one per year. So we have this whole course that I'd love for people to learn about, where we can work with you personally to give you our whole system of emails, pricing strategies, and everything to actually just build your business on top of that foundation. So yeah, well, hopefully we can connect through Community Group and all that education and see a lot of people, especially as we come out from shutdowns and things, just gangbusters grow their businesses without having to worry about weddings and things like that.
I really hope that you enjoyed today's interview with Phillip Blume. Now, I told you that I would share with you my results from when I use their method, but for wedding bookings. So this is where I would offer to shoot an engagement session for free, but I did require a $49 deposit to reserve their time slot, which was then given back to them in the form of a photo credit if they decided to use it. And honestly, I did a very soft version of this where I didn't book up my entire weekend. This is one of those things, I wanted to try it out before I really dove deep into it. So I just booked one Saturday, and I booked 8 engagement mini sessions, that is. So it's about 25 minutes each, booked 30 minutes apart. So it gives me about 5 minutes in between each session to say goodbye, grab a drink, and then get back to it. So I thought, you know what, worst case, nobody shows up and I make $400. And that's not bad, right there. But luckily they all showed up. And what I did was what Phillip suggested. I focused on the experience. I focused on learning about them. I focused on getting them to talk about each other and their early days in their relationship and kind of what they loved about each other. And that made them feel closer. And then they're just acting naturally. So you just go ahead and photograph that, which made my life super, super easy that day. So out of the 8 mini sessions that I shot, 6 ended up booking their wedding with me. The other 2 said that they would have booked their wedding with me, but they already had another photographer. They just didn't get an engagement session. So this kind of did it for them, but they still love the photos and made purchases as well. So I still earned extra money from them too. And that meant that in total, for that one Saturday of shooting, I had closed $19,045 in sales. So I can tell you that their system works. Truly. So if you want to make the most out of fall and earn some extra cash, the Blooms have actually decided to host an updated webinar with me and even more information just for you, my BPP photo friends. So if you already get emails from me, I'll send you the info in the coming weeks, I suppose. But if you don't get emails from me, then just shoot me an email at beginnerphotographypodcast@gmail.com with Bloom in the subject line, and I'll make sure that you get invited when the webinar goes live. So that is it. I would love to hear your biggest takeaway from this episode with Phillip Blume inside the Beginner Photography Podcast community, where you can now talk about each podcast episode, what were your biggest takeaways, and even ask follow-up questions as well. So exciting stuff. Now, again, that is it. Until next week, remember, the more that you shoot today, the better of a photographer you will be tomorrow. Talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the Beginner Photography Podcast. If you enjoy the show, consider leaving a review in iTunes. Keep shooting, and we'll see you next week.